Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm Amrita Ghosh Kumar and our subject expert is Dr. Sabia Khan, teaching at the Center for Management Studies at Jamia Millia Islamia University. We will talk about business communication today. Communication is an indispensable activity in all organizations. Communication is the life of any organization. No organization can think of its existence without effective communication. Business communication is a managerial skill which is essential for the effective direction of people at work. The word communication has been derived from the Latin word communis, which means common. Communication involves imparting a common idea and covers all types of behavior resulting from it. In broad sense, it means both the act of communicating and the manner of communication, such as a letter, a notice, a circular, and so on. Thus, communication may be defined as an interchange of thought or information to bring about mutual understanding and confidence. It is information by words, letters, symbols, and messages. It is exchange of facts, ideas, viewpoints which bring about commonness of interest, purpose, and efforts. Now let us see what is the nature of the communication. Management of an organization is effective only when its communication machinery is effective. An effective communication machinery is important because it communicates and helps in implementing the policies and objectives of the organization. And it also helps in understanding the nature and behavior of the people at work. Business communication is a two-way process. It means that the management must allow both the parties, management and the subordinates, to convey their feelings, their ideas, their opinions, facts, grievances to the other party. There are two parties involved in any communication process: the sender and the receiver. Communication is not complete without a receiver, even if it is in the form of the letter. The letter has to be addressed to somebody. Email too is addressed to someone. Notices are for general information. The receiver sends the feedback, maybe in the form of another letter, email, and thus the communication is complete and also continuous. Communication requires a medium. It could be a mechanical piece of equipment like a computer, a writer and a reader, a speaker and a hearer. There is no communication until the message sent by the communicator is received by the receiver. Also, it is ineffective if it is not correctly interpreted by the receiver. It is not enough by the manager to give orders. It has to be correctly understood and carried out by the receiver. All organizational interactions depend upon communication. The managers coordinate human and physical elements of an organization into an efficient working unit with the help of communication system. The performance of all the managerial functions depend to a great extent on effective communication by the managers at different levels. The foremost management function, planning requires extensive communication among the executives and the personnel. It is important in executing a plan or a program and then controlling the activities with the help of feedback. It is also necessary in evaluating the performance of the personnel in light of the planned objectives. Another function organizing too involves communication. It helps in directing the employees deciding the various activities of the organizations, divide them into workable units, and delegate authority to perform them. It is possible only through effective communication. Direction and leadership often requires an efficient communication system. A good leader can lead his group only through communication. It promotes cooperation and helps in getting the work done in the desired direction. A leader can make his orders useful by inviting opinions, suggestions from his subordinates which require communication. An efficient communication system enables management to change the attitude of the subordinates and to motivate, influence, and satisfy them. Conflicts in the organizations are due to misunderstandings. Proper and timely communication reduces the friction among employees. It is the basis of all participative and democratic patterns of all management. Coordination requires mutual understanding about the organizational goals. In order to achieve the desired objectives, it is necessary to coordinate all the efforts of the employees. Communication aids in controlling the activities of the individuals, departments, and groups. The management evaluates the performance of the individuals on the basis of the communication sent by them. Every organization aims at getting the maximum output at the minimum cost. For this purpose, they need to have effective internal and external communication. In external environment, an efficient communication system helps in improving public opinion, having contacts with government departments, and getting the requisite market information. Working in the internal environment, effective communication system can get the cooperation of the workers by telling them the goals of the organization and the ways to achieve them. In order to take prompt decisions, communication is absolutely necessary. Information has to be received before taking any meaningful decision. To implement the decision again, effective communication is required. The most important factor of any production is man. Communication being a two-way process, downward communication tells the subordinates how to perform the job. On the other hand, upward communication helps the employees telling their grievances, thus building human relations. Efficient communication brings about job satisfaction, which comes from cooperation of the workers. Morale motivates a man to work in the right spirit. Contact with outside agencies such as customers, associations, manufacturers, advertisers, suppliers, trade unions for further interest of the organization is dependent upon communication. Thus, communication helps in maintaining good relations with external agencies. Therefore, we see that communication is the vital element for the very existence of the organization. emphasizing the importance of communication. Chester Bernard has remarked, "The first executive function is to develop and maintain a system of communication." Communication helps the management in making the employees understand the objectives, the plans, and the policies of the enterprise. Communication develops understanding between superiors and the subordinates. It leads to congenial human relations in the organization. Communication again helps in controlling the performance of different individuals and departments of the enterprise. Communication facilitates decision making by providing necessary information on time. Communication provides unity of direction to various activities of the organization. Again, communication is an effective device for achieving participation by the workers. Management can consult the workers and receive their grievances, complaints, and suggestions. Communication facilitates change on the part of employees by modifying their behavior. According to John G. Glover, the important purposes of communication are: 1. To keep employees informed of the company's progress. 2. To provide employees with the orders and instructions in connection with their duties. 3. To solicit information from the employees which may aid management. 4. To make each employee interested in his respective job and in the work of the company as a whole. 5th, to express the management's interest in its personnel. 6th, to prevent labor turnover. 7th, to instill each employee with personal pride in being a member of the company. 8th, to indoctrinate employees with the will to work and the benefits derived from their association with the company. Communication being a process requires at least two persons, a sender and a receiver, irrespective of the mode of communication. The sender or the source conceives the idea, gives it a shape, decides the mode of communication which may be used to convey the idea, and then conveys it. The receiver, on the other hand, receives it, tries to understand it, and finally takes an action which may be either to store information or to send the message to the original source or take any other line of action as required by the source. The entire communication process comprises of 6 steps, namely ideation, encoding, transmission, receiving, decoding, and action. Ideation. It is the first step where the sender thinks of an idea which he wants to communicate to the receiver. This is the content and the basis of the message. The sender decides to whom the message is to be conveyed and also the channel to be used in the process. Encoding. The ideas are given symbols in this step. Encoding is thus translation of an already conceived idea by the sender into a message that is appropriate for transmission. The message may take any of the 3 forms: oral, written, or gestural. It involves selection of the medium also. The medium is the mode of transmission, such as air for spoken words and paper for letters, and so on. The receiver must be considered while selecting a channel. Transmission. The third step is conveying of the message as encoded by the sender. The channel may be mass media like the newspaper, the television, or interpersonal like the telephone, correspondence, hand and facial gestures, and other body movements. Receiving is the next step. Any neglect on this part may change the meaning of the message. The receiver must be willing to understand, then only effective communication is possible. Decoding. Decoding is the reverse of encoding. It means translation of symbols encoded by the sender into a meaningful communication. It is affected by the receiver's past experiences, education, perception, expectations, and mutuality of the meaning with the sender. If the message is not decoded efficiently, the message is lost. Action. It is also known as feedback. It is the response shown by the receiver after getting the message. Feedback is the reversal of communication process. The receiver becomes the sender and the sender becomes the receiver. At all these stages, communication is affected by noise. Noise is any factor that disturbs, confuses, or interferes with the communication. It may be internal, that is, when receiver or sender is not paying attention, or it may be external, that is, when the message is distorted by sounds in the environment. Noise has to be controlled for better understanding of the message. The various elements involved in the process are source, message, channel, receiver, effect, and feedback. Let us start with source. The source is the originator of the idea or the message. The source conceives the idea, prepares the message, selects the channel, and decides about the receiver. Message. It refers to the stimulus that the source transmits to the receiver. It is what communication is all about. Messages are composed of symbols having a definite meaning to the source and the receiver. Channel. It is the mean through which messages travel from the sender to the receiver. Selection of the channel depends upon the message to be conveyed, the availability of the channel and the cost of the channel, and of course the effectiveness of the channel. Receiver. The receiver is the person to whom the message is intended. Effect. Effect is the change in behavior of the receiver after receiving the message. Feedback is the action or reaction on part of the receiver in response to the message. Now, the communication can be grouped on the following basis. On the basis of direction: downward communication, upward communication, horizontal or lateral communication. On the basis of the way of expression, there could be oral communication, written communication. On the basis of the organizational structure, formal communication, informal communication. Now we will discuss these types of communication in detail. Within an organization, communication may flow intrascalar or intrascalar. Interscalar communication means when communication flows between two persons at different managerial levels. It may be further classified as downward when it flows from the higher level to the lower level, that is from the superior to the subordinates, or upward when it flows from the lower level to the higher level, that is from the subordinates to the superior. Intrascalar communication flows between persons at the same hierarchical level. It is also known as horizontal or lateral communication. Downward communication flows from the top of the organization down through various levels to the bottom along the scalar chain. Such communication relates to orders and instructions relating to the job, organizational policies, rules, programs and procedures, directions about understanding a job and its relationship with other jobs, feedback of subordinates' performance, reprimands and criticisms, questions inviting upward communication. It specifies the extent of the subordinate's authority and also responsibility. It flows from the chief executive of the organization to the lowest level through the middle management. Downward communication can take place through verbal or written orders, instructions, notices, circulars, letters, memos, posters, periodicals, publications, group meetings, etc. What are the advantages of such communication? It helps in explaining the organization's policies, plans and program, work methodology and other necessary information to the members of the organization. It is used as a means to control the activities of the subordinates. It helps to motivate the subordinates. Then what are the disadvantages? The information has to pass through various hierarchical levels which may sometimes destroy the message content. Feedback to higher authorities by the lower level is vertical, upward communication. It is the reverse of downward communication. It flows upward from the subordinates to the superior through the middle managerial levels along the line. Upward communication can be of two types. One, feedback of information in which subordinates convey a message to the top executive in response to the superior's correspondence. Second, voluntary communication from subordinates to convey their complaints, suggestions, opinions, innovative ideas, reaction to a policy or clarification of orders or activity reports, etc. Now let us see the advantages of upward communication. It helps to know the attitudes, the behavior, opinions, actions and feelings of the workers. It creates confidence and trust in the superiors. It develops confidence among the subordinates that they can convey their feeling, their grievances, etc. to the top management. Disadvantages. Upward communication is generally ignored or distorted at intermediate levels as top management is unwilling to listen to the subordinates. The subordinates are afraid of action being taken against them if they express their true feelings. It refers to communication between various departments or units representing the same level, or people within the same or different departments, without having superior subordinate relationships. Advantages: it helps in coordinating the activities of different departments at the same level. Disadvantages: there is a difference in approach as well as vision of different departments, and when they come at one platform, they behave and say things from their own angle, which sometimes defeat the purpose of effective communication. Oral communication, written communication. Oral communication. Communication with the help of the spoken word is known as oral communication. Oral communication may take place by face-to-face conversation or through mechanical devices. Face-to-face conversation is the most natural way of transmitting message. Through this method, message can be conveyed both by words and through expressions. Mechanical devices which is used for oral communication include telephones, intercom systems, dictating machines, etc. Both the methods of oral communication are frequently used for upward and downward communication. Advantages here are that it is the fastest form of communication. Gestures, tones and facial expressions make the communication even more effective. Immediate feedback is possible, and there is no distortion, filtering or coloring. The only way out during emergency. It generates a sense of participation. The disadvantages are there is no documentary proof. The impact is temporary. If the message is too lengthy, oral communication is not effective. If the words are not clear, it may take another meaning. Written communication. The written communication is in the form of circulars, bulletins, manuals, handbooks, notes, orders, instructions, etc. Written communication is used by the management for lengthy messages and messages that have to be maintained as a record. It is the most effective form of business communication. The advantages here are that it can be stored for further reference like policies, confidential documents, etc. When the sender and the receiver are placed at distant places, written communication is an effective tool. Large numbers of persons can be addressed at the same time. Written communication gives the receiver more time to think and decide sensibly. There is the least possibility of distortion of message. The disadvantages are that it is quite time consuming, it is costly, everything can be put in writing, words used may have different meanings and may be interpreted differently by different people. Details cannot be kept confidential as it passes through a number of people. It is not flexible. Formal communication, informal communication, formal communication. When the communication flows through formal channels, it is known as formal communication. It is passed through a path of line of authority linking two positions in the organization. Advantages. It helps in maintaining the authority of line executives over their subordinates. The responsibility can be fixed easily. A better understanding is developed between seniors and subordinates. Disadvantages. It increases the workload of the superiors. The message may be filtered because there is a long line of superiors from the top to the bottom. Informal communication. It is also known as grapevine. This channel is not planned and it is free from all formalities. When interactions take place, the group develops their own bonding, resulting in informal channels of communication. Advantages here are that it travels faster than formal communication. It is multidimensional since no formality is there, and that is why it may discuss any topic. It supplements formal channels. Disadvantages are that it is often half-truth, rumors and distorted. Let us now quickly summarize what we have learned today. We have discussed the definition of business communication, its role, its purpose, and its types. It is defined as a two-way process involving a sender and a receiver. The different types of communication are upward, downward, lateral. It can be oral or it can be written, formal and informal. That is all for today. I hope you have understood the introductory concepts of business communication. We'll see you again with another topic on management. Till then, take care and bye-bye.